Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm going to read two verses this morning, 18, 19. They're connected. And we'll chant together text 18. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Tri Saptibi Pita Potaha Pitrabhir Sahate Nagha Yat Sadosya Kule Jato Bhavan Vaikula Pavanaha Tri Saptibi Pita Potaha Pitrabhi Sahate Nagha Yat Sadosya Kule Jato Bhavan Vaikula Pavanaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Shri Saptibi Tasutaha Pitribhir Sahae Isadhosya Kule Jato Bhavan Vaikula Pavanaha. Tri Saptibi Pita Potaha Saptibi Pita Potaha Pitribhi Sahate Nagha Sadhosya Kule Jato Bhavan Vaikula Pavanaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Shri Saptibi Pita Potaha Pitribhi Sahate Nagha Nasadosya Kule Jato Bhavan Vaikula Pavan. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Tri Saptibi, 7 multiplied by 3. That is to say 21. Pita, Father. Potaha, purified. Pitrabhi, with your forefathers. Saha, all together. Te, your. Anagha, O most sinless personality, Prahlad Maharaj, yet because Sadho, O great person, O great saintly person, Asya, of this person. Kule, in the dynasty, Jataha took birth. Bhavan, you. Vai, indeed. Kulapavanaha, the purifier of the whole dynasty. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Prahlad, O most pure, O great saintly person, your father has been purified along with 21 forefathers in your family. Because you were born in this family, the entire dynasty has been purified." And the purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Tri Saptami means 7 multiplied by 3. In one's family, one can count back 4 or 5 generations to one's great-grandfather or even one's great-grandfather's father. But since the Lord mentions 21 forefathers, this indicates that the benediction expands to other families also. So listen to this logic. Before the present family in which one has taken birth, one must have been born in other families. Thus, when a Vaishnava takes birth in a family, by the grace of the Lord, he purifies not only that family, but also the families of his previous births. Note that it's 2 different things being talked about. And the next verse expresses similar. Yatra yatra madbhakta prashanta sama darshinaha sadhava samudacharas te pujante pi kikata. A degraded country, or the inhabitants of such a place. Ki kata. Wherever and whenever and wherever there are peaceful, equipoised devotees who are well behaved and decorated with all good qualities, that place and the dynasties there, even if condemned, are purified. Purport: wherever exalted devotees stay, not only they or their dynasties, but the entire country is purified. So the context is the compassion of Prahlad Maharaj is being exhibited. He knows intuitively. The Lord hasn't asked him yet to take a benediction, but he knows the Lord wants him to take a benediction. And so he asked for the benediction of relieving his father from the sinful reactions of his mountain of sins. And we heard that although Prahlad knew that already, he wanted to hear it directly from the Personality of Godhead. And so now the Personality of Godhead is responding, saying, it's done. He's going to say, ask for something that isn't already done. Ask for a benediction. So the nature of a Vaishnava is compassion. You could say other things too. Certainly forgiveness. He didn't hold it against his father that he had done such horrible things towards him. He didn't like the fact that he's blasphemed Lord Nrsingadev in various ways. He didn't like that, but he was giving forgiveness also, and wanted the Lord to give him forgiveness. So we're getting some information like how this system works. The system works where just by the fact of Prahlad's taking birth, even before anything else happened, just by Prahlad's taking birth in that family, your father has been purified along with 21 forefathers in your family because you were born in this family. The entire dynasty has been purified. It's a fact that the very best service we can do for our family members, there's always concern. Cultured and religious people have concern for their family members. And it's just the affection is natural. Prabhupada states something curious. Don't know how to take it. That the only possibility, something like this, the possibility of a relationship of love is between human and another human. People don't like that. There's affection between dogs and humans and dogs and things like that. So someone forwarded something to me where some puppies, this is anecdotal, but some puppies were placed in front of an animal hospital in a basket. So they took the puppies in, they put the puppies in a place where they could be safe and so on. And the mother was at the door, would regularly come to the door and come to the door and come to the door, and they finally let the mother come in, and the mother immediately cuddled up to the puppies cuddled up to the mother, and somehow the mother knew the puppies were at that hospital. And then the natural affection between, as was mentioned yesterday also, natural affection between parent and child and parent, it's the affinity is naturally there. So if whatever affection we have for family members, the very best thing is become a pure devotee. Because not only those family members, but others, here 21 generations, they're purified. That's a long reach, 21 generations. Once Prabhupada was asked, sometimes it said they become liberated, and Prabhupada was asked, what does that mean? Because liberation is something that's a free will choice. Supposing I don't want to be liberated, I have a relative that becomes a pure devotee, but I want to stay here. So liberated, Prabhupada explains, means they get the opportunity to engage in devotional service, because devotional service is performed from the Brahmabhuta platform. At least the opportunity is there. They can always say no. Sometimes they say no. There's another reference. I had this discussion a little while ago with somebody saying, what happens if one becomes a pure devotee? What does the scripture say? It's a long discussion, but different than Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Krishna book rendering of the story of King Nriga, you know the story of King Nriga? Your daughter. Okay. You read her the story tonight. Okay. King Nriga was a very pious king, magnanimous king, And one of the things that magnanimous people like to do is give charity, so he was giving so many cows, whatever the number, some large number of cows in charity. And the brahmanas, one by one, would come and he would give them a cow. And by accident, one of the cows given to one of the brahmanas wandered back into the herd of the cows, and he gave that same cow in charity to another brahmana. And then the two brahmanas had a squabble over whose cow. And they went back to the king and said, "You've given the property of a brahmana." So he was given this opportunity, curse, to receive the reaction of stealing the property of a brahmana first, and then the fruit of his pious activities, or vice versa. So he calculated, well, I'll get the problem out of the way first. I'll take the reaction, then I'll prosper with my pious activities. So he was given the body of a lizard, and Krishna touched the body of the lizard, and he became relieved of that sin. So here's Krishna speaking. This is from Krishna book, Krishna speaking. Krishna was present among his relatives, who were members of the Kshatriya class, to teach them through the exemplary character of King Nriga. He said, Krishna book reading for Bhagavatam class, "Even though a Kshatriya king may be as powerful as fire, it is not possible for him to usurp the property of a Brahmana and utilize it for his own purpose. If this is so, how can ordinary kings, who falsely think themselves the most powerful beings within the material world, usurp a Brahmana's property? I do not think that taking poison is as dangerous as taking a Brahmana's property. For ordinary poison, there's a treatment. One can be relieved from its effects. But if one drinks the poison of taking a Brahmana's property, there is no remedy for the mistake." The perfect example is King Nriga. He was very powerful and pious. But due to the small mistake of unknowingly usurping a Brahmana's cow, he was condemned to the abominable life of a lizard. Ordinary poison affects only those who drink it. This is the second, text 19, what he's now saying. Ordinary poison affects only those who drink it, and ordinary fire can be extinguished simply by pouring water on it. But the Arani fire, ignited by the spiritual potency of a Brahmana who is dissatisfied, can burn to ashes the whole family of a person who provokes such a Brahmana. If someone even touches a Brahmana's property, his family is ruined for 3 generations. If, however, a Brahmana's property is forcibly taken away, the whole family for 10 generations before him and 10 generations after him will be subject to ruination. On the other hand, now notice that number is a little different. On the other hand, if someone becomes a pure, it's not like you have to be a pure devotee and then take birth in a family. You can become a pure devotee. It also counts. So become pure devotees. If someone becomes a pure Vaishnava or devotee of the Lord, 10 generations of his family before his birth and 10 generations after will be liberated. Now it's a little puzzling. How does somebody that was before become liberated? Wherever that soul is, they're somewhere, and wherever that soul is, they become liberated. There's a little interview recently someone sent around where Ambarish was being interviewed by Reuters, and just really short. One of the questions that was asked by the interviewer was, how did you begin Krishna consciousness? And he began Krishna consciousness by somehow somebody had purchased a book and they knew that Alfred Ford was interested in, exploring alternative things, and they gave him the Bhagavad Gita, and he read the Bhagavad Gita and he was so moved. Although he had read zillions of other things and wasn't so moved, he was very moved by Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, so he wanted to meet the author, and he was visiting in Hawaii, and Prabhupada was visiting in Hawaii, so he was invited to come meet Prabhupada. And as I'm narrating this, I'm picturing the scene, because I once visited Hawaii, and the quarters where Prabhupada stayed, it's the whole end of like a old wood frame house, and it's one very large room. Anyway, when you walk into that large room, you feel something. I mean, I felt something. Because Prabhupada spent more time there in Hawaii doing his translating than any other place on the planet. It has a strong vibration of Prabhupada's presence. So he was brought into the place where Prabhupada was sitting, and someone introduced him. This is Alfred Ford, the great-grandfather of Henry Ford. So Prabhupada's first words were, "Oh, and where is he now?" I mean, right away, take it to the transcendental platform. I can only, he didn't comment like this, but one can only imagine if you were great-grandson of Henry Ford, and you get used to people saying, "Oh, you're the great," flattery and fanfare and, some little awe and reverence. And Prabhupada's first reply was, "Where is he now?" "Oh, Henry Ford, where is he now?" So wherever those souls are that were our forefathers, according to what Krishna is saying in this King Mriga story, 10 generations before and 10 generations subsequent, if you become, pure devotee, will be liberated. Now, the statement that we read in Bhagavatam is 21 generations previous. The number's almost the same, 21 and 20, but the direction they move in is different. And then Prabhupada says something very interesting. I'll read it again because the logic is fascinating. I looked up in the commentaries, there's nothing on this. Since the Lord mentions 21 forefathers, this indicates that the benediction expands to other families also. Then he qualifies what he means by other families also. Before the present family in which one has taken birth, one must have been born in other families. Thus, when a Vaishnava takes birth in a family, by the grace of the Lord, he purifies not only that family, but also the families of his previous births, which is different than your forefathers, because it's not at all a necessity that Ambarish or Alfred Ford was present during the life of Henry Ford, or that 21 generations before we were born, we were in that same family that was 21 generations, then 20 generations, and 19 generations. You get the distinction. Clear? In any case, Prabhupada is speaking like this. So, not only the family line, in which we take birth, then those souls, somehow, wherever they may be, get some benefit. They get purified, the word is used. In this verse, it's pavanaha, kula. Pavanaha, kula indicates the family or the dynasty. Like kula guru is commonly used, the family guru, the one takes care of rituals and things for the family. And the next verse, text 19, it's puyante, are purified. The indication is that the place, not only the family members, but the place becomes purified. So devotees become pure, and you can purify Chicago. These some parts of Chicago where you go in Harinam and the place becomes sanctified. Or you do book distribution, those places become sanctified. Not only the people, but the places. That's the indication here. One other reference that very clear. So the message is there is group karma, both pious and impious. What we do not only affects ourselves, not only affects our immediate family, but it affects the place where we reside and conduct our activities. So, Ramchandra Khan was an offender to Haridas Thakur. Ramchandra Khan was a resident in Benapole, and he was a big guy. He was a landholder, and at that time, landholders meant you're like a miniature king, because the landholder would act like a king. They would own the land, and people, because it was agrarian economy, people would approach the landholder. They would get permission to utilize some piece of the land, and they would pay a tax to the landholder for the use of the land. That was their rent for using the land. So then the landholder would be powerful, and he different things. He would make different decisions about the welfare of the people, depending upon his character. Commonly, kings kept their army. They were the landholders became the kings, like miniature kings. And then kings are under bigger kings and so on. It was very, very popular, or a common tradition. Kings carried that title, king, just for claiming land as the property of Krishna, and they became a king. Anyway. So Ramchandra Khan had that position, and very wealthy and influential, and the place where Haridas was staying was not in Benapole, it was in a forest outside Benapole. And he just kept a little simple cottage. The description goes that he would maintain himself by madhukari, visiting homes of families and receive alms, and that was his maintenance. And in this way, people came to know of him, even though he's living in a forest. And eventually, his notoriety started to grow, that he's this very special person. He's a sadhu. People began to adore him, respect him, etc. So this irritated Ramchandra Khan. So he made his plan to see if he could get to spoil the reputation of the sadhu. And so he made a diabolical plan to have some prostitute go and have him fall down and then have him arrested for violating a woman and held publicly in disgrace. So he gathered up the prostitutes, and they all agreed. One of them was the best of them, and she agreed to go and do her thing. But she requested that it be done after one evening after he fell down. Don't send a whole group of people to, get him after he falls down. You know the story. So after 3 days of Haridas saying, "Oh, I have to finish my chanting," and her just sitting there hearing his chanting, just by hearing his chanting, the powerful chanting of Haridas Thakur, she became purified. Same message. She became purified. Confessed the whole thing. Haridas said, "I knew from the very first day that you came here." He had some connection with Super Soul, and had some understanding that Ramchandra, exactly the whole plan, but he said, "But I stayed because I wanted to free you." Then some commentary says that not only Haridas knew what Khan's program was, but he also knew that the woman had some, beneath all of that dirty stuff of her profession, there was some faith. He knew somehow. And that was what he was interested in. And that faith then grew through that sound vibration. And she became a great devotee. And then Haridas gave her the cottage that he was staying, the tulsi plant where he was chanting in front of, and left. Sometime later, because this location of Benapole is now in Bangladesh, but then there wasn't a Bangladesh at that time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This event took place before Lord Chaitanya's appearance, and later, when Lord Nityananda, under the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was traveling throughout the land of Bengal and giving the pure holy name very liberally, he happened to come again to that very place, Benapole. And he happened to, with all of his transcendental madmen, the Sankirtan party, end up in the mandap, the Durga mandap, in the backyard or something like that, of Ramchandra Khan. And Ramchandra Khan came out in a big huff and basically said, "Get out of here." But he tried to say it a little differently. He said, "There's not enough space here for all of you, but there's lots of space in the Goshala. I think that would be a nice place. Why don't you take your party there?" He offended Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda roared and stood up and left. And the Chaitanya Bhagavat description says, thereafter the whole village of Venapole became destroyed. By the offense of one, the whole of Venapole was destroyed. Not only Ramchandra Khan. So the people where Ramchandra Khan was staying, they shared in his sinful reaction, and in the sinful reaction of offending Lord Nityananda is, you don't want to mess with Lord Nityananda. You have a big problem. So there's group karma. There's group prosperity and purification, and there's group contamination and misery and suffering. So it's very, for practicing Vaishnavas, we're trying to cultivate Krishna consciousness. It's not irrelevant that a particular place is sinful. Just take Chicago. I mean, it's got its history of sinful activity besides Al Capone. Even before Al Capone and all of the gangsterism of Chicago and the current, situation with police, et cetera, et cetera. Because there's a big history, the big history of when train transportation became fashionable in the Midwest, the trains brought the cattle for slaughter to Chicago. And Chicago was like a big-time slaughterhouse. And immigrants from different parts of Europe were brought in to do the dirty business. And then they also became contaminated. But the whole city of Chicago, the gangsterism, the reputation of gangsterism in Chicago, at least one could place the scriptural argument. The root of that is all the sinful activity. Probably Jitendra could give you a whole narration on the sinful nature of stuff in the past in Chicago. But the first time I came to Chicago, we were on traveling Sankirtan, and it's the only time I've been in jail as a devotee. We were just distributing books in downtown Chicago, and along came a paddy wagon, and they got scooped up and put into the paddy wagon and taken to a jail. Actually, they didn't put me in a jail. It just said, you do this again and you're in jail. The second time I came to Chicago, I came to visit Prithushava, and at that time there was a gentleman that was visiting the temple who was a police officer in Chicago, and he picked me up at the airport, not in his police car, in his regular car. And on the way to the temple, I was asking him, what's it like being a police officer in Chicago? And he gave me an earful. He said, just yesterday, I was in a parking lot, slouched down in my patrol car, just with my eyes looking above the dashboard, and there was a gang war shootout in that parking lot. And I just watched it, over drugs or whatever it was, and they were shooting each other, and that's what it's like being a cop in Chicago. You just keep your head down. That's what he said. And the next day he picked me up at the airport. So, okay, welcome Chicago. Rough city. And people suffer because of those things. And what to speak of all the sinful things. So many. Which gets highest on the list. I'm not going to go down the list. You do a quick scan in your mind of the sinful activities that people are engaged in, and not only those people doing those things, but others where they reside also become contaminated. So what's the antidote? Become pure. Become pure. It's the challenge is there, but become pure, and by becoming pure, then others will become purified and relieved of the reactions of their sinful activities. Whatever people of Chicago have done, I don't know if we want to put on a pan scale and say, and over here is Hiranyakashipu, and over there is all the people of Chicago. He was a very bad person. Or Jaghai and Madhai, and they were very bad, very, very bad persons. But they became relieved by, so it's not just be pure, that's nice, be pure, but like Prahlad, he was interested in giving that to others, as was Lord Nityananda interested in giving that to others. In fact, it was part of the consideration that Lord Nityananda made. These two, Jaghai and Madhai, fantastic. Let's deliver them. Because if we can deliver them, if Lord Chaitanya delivers them, then everyone will come to understand how great is Lord Chaitanya. Let's go. Sure enough, they were delivered, and sure enough, Lord Chaitanya became appreciated for his delivering Jaghai and Madhai. So here we are in Chicago, or Wild West, America. It's the same place that Srila Prabhupada was sent by Bhaktisiddhanta to give the message of Lord Chaitanya. And to the degree that we take up that message, apply it in our lives, and and also like Prahlad or Lord Nityananda and Haridas extend the opportunity to others, then simultaneously we're receiving even greater benefit and they're also receiving benefit. And the place becomes purified as well. Even if people put their fingers in their ears as Harinam is going by. Or I asked one of the devotees that was visiting in New York, and they joined the Harinam in the subway. So that's not like we're passing by people, just people are passing by us in the subway. And there's the whole range of reaction from this end of the spectrum to that end of the spectrum. But nonetheless, people are being benefited by hearing the holy name, although the reaction may be, whatever it may be. There's spiritual benefit. There's purification taking place. This is the benediction of the Sankirtan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, bringing into the den of iniquity, the place of contamination, the bowels of New York City, the subway system, and bring Krishna consciousness, bring the holy name. Very nice. And wherever one may wish to do that. I'll just end with this. I heard the recording of the lecture. I read it in Lilamrita, and I so much appreciated what Prabhupada said. I wanted to hear the recording of the installation of Gornatai deities in Caracas, Venezuela. The Prabhupada cried, saying, Lord Chaitanya is so merciful. He's come to this remote place to give his mercy to these souls. Lord Chaitanya is very kind. This is, and those that assist Lord Chaitanya, it's part of the mission of kindness. And there's plenty of challenges, without listing, plenty of challenges. One is on a mission of giving kindness and you get pie in the face or get out of here or criticism or something or other. Oh well, along with some appreciation for sure. But the purification is it's within the process itself. And again, those that are delivering that message through that mission are also becoming purified. It's a very wonderful process. Any discussion? Jitendriya, Chicago story? Chicago story? No.
Is that all right?
Whatever you want.
I mean, I was just thinking of, Prabhupada said that Chicago would be a very difficult place to establish a temple because it was so sinful. And then the devotees would tell me that they would go over to the stockyards where they killed a lot of animals. It's closed now, but they said the people were so like
crazy.
They couldn't be moved. They were just walking around like zombies. In regards to purification, the Lord says, the Lord helps those who help themselves. So it just seems to be that we have to make the effort to become purified. But this verse, describes it in a different way, that it's, like a magic wand. And, that's nice.
Okay. Anything else?
Hare Krishna. You told that when the person becomes devotee, he can deliver his 24 generations.
24?
Yeah, that's what you told.
24 or 21?
21, maybe.
Okay.
So, but in the BRS, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it shows that when the person is in Malacha family, he has to take other birth in the Vaishnava family, and then he can deliver his Am I right or wrong?
I've never heard that one. I don't know if it says that or doesn't say that. I'm unfamiliar. I can't comment. Yes.
I read somewhere in Prabhupada's commentary that it depends on one's, if one's Kanishta Madhyama or Uttama, depending on if it's, I think it's like 3 generations, then 7, then 21. I've read that somewhere in his purports. So it depends on one's level of advancement to where, like if you become a pure devotee, then the benefit is biggest. Is that, have you read that?
You're talking about, I got about 50% of what you said, but the question you're asking is the number 21?
Well, is it dependent on one's advancement, how
Yes.
many it goes back?
Yes.
Maharaj, this King Nriga story, it may induce fear in devotees because we live in a community of devotees and brahmanas. And my understanding of the pastime is that it shows the futility of karma kanda type rituals in that there was no protection. So for devotees, sometimes, I mean, I've had experiences where I've heard this pastime, and maybe you need to borrow something, or devotees are very liberal with their things. So how does it apply to devotees who are doing bhakti, and you have friendships, you might borrow something?
That's different. Borrowing and stealing are different. We should be very, you say it strikes, that your first sentence was it strikes fear in the heart. It's meant to. I mean, not exactly fear. If there's a tendency to not just have with a friend and you borrow something and you return it, and there's, even if you don't return it, there's friendship, so it's not a problem. Still, one should be very wary. Especially, usurping, without going back to the language, Krishna's saying, and using it for your own enjoyment, independent of that person. So that's not okay. We should be alert to the fact that it's not okay. So we have friends that are brahmanas and they're liberal and they're very kind with their possessions. We should still be mindful of the principle and not harm those things if we borrow them and return them, and if we break them or lose them or something, we replace them. We take responsibility. It's culture. What to speak of, it's a karmic or dharmic reality that we should be aware of in our communal living. We're not cultured. We're the opposite. So to help people that are not cultured become cultured, we need to know the consequences of bad conduct. Who's running the microphone this morning? There's a hand up over here.
Prahlad Maharaj was direct in his preaching.
Prahlad Maharaj was what?
Direct.
Direct.
Yeah. And sometimes I wonder with my parents and with university students how direct I should be, because I don't want them to be scared away or to make offenses.
Well, different of us are different. Our styles are different, and that's allowed. And sensibilities of parents or sensibilities of students should be taken into consideration. And the directness of Prahlad Maharaj was connected to a heart that was completely pure. So that's a big factor also, in terms of directness, that the heart is pure. So the meaning, two things, the intention is a well-wishing intention, or like Prahlad's, a compassionate intention. He was very direct with his father, or, what is the best thing you've learned in school? And he was very direct. I didn't learn it in school. I learned, the best thing is devotional service, the 9 processes of bhakti. That's the best thing. Very direct, fearless, but the heart that's pure. Now his father became furious. And, different of us need to consider our situation, our own personal situation and our family members' situation and so forth. So different approaches for different persons in different circumstances. Okay. Yeah.
Is it important for us to leave a good impression with our family in the meantime while we're practicing?
Is it important to do what?
To leave a good impression with our family
During practicing with
while
the family?
we're practicing bhakti, because we're not pure devotees. I'm not a pure devotee at the meantime, but leaving them with a good impression, so they're
Who's they?
family.
Family members?
Yeah.
Family members. So you're practicing, they're not practicing now?
Yeah, so leaving them with a good impression by your behavior, or visiting them maybe a little bit, to leave them with a good impression of Krishna consciousness, so they're not unfavorable.
Well, again, different persons, different circumstances, different styles. One of the most irritating things for persons who are attached is to get a message, or to perceive that you're transmitting a message that says, you didn't do me right, or I'm smarter than you are, you trained me wrong, or I know better than you know. And if something like that comes, it hits the wrong button. I've personally experienced it with my family. It wasn't at all the intention, but the perception that was like that. And so okay, don't ask me any questions then. So with family members, commonly, there's differences, but commonly, just good conduct. Be a good brother or a good son or a good family member. Just have good qualities, because they already know you're up to something. I mean, obviously, but if they see, well, this is doing good for our son. He's becoming whatever they feel is good. Responsible, conscientious, he's happy, he radiates this happiness and joy, and that's great. Whatever it is, we're not ready to do that, whatever it is, but it's having a good effect on him. So then you don't have to get into teachings and practices and stuff. And even if they ask you questions, this is advice I commonly would give to people. Be sparing about what you say. Because you don't know when you're going to hit a trip switch or something. And that someone gets triggered because you say something and they go off. They feel threatened by something you said. So sparingly, little by little. Main thing is good quality, good character. Achar speaks stronger than prachar, Prabhupada would say. Teach, show by example, but this is what bhakti is. By your good qualities. And the inner joy that you're experiencing. And which means then also when there's some irritating something that's going on around you, you don't get irritated, you just remain peaceful and happy. You go, wow. And not even just family members, but let's say commonly for people that are in a work situation, rubbing shoulders with other people, and even if you don't say it, they'll come to know you're a little different than other people, and they'll start to see that how you're different, and that whatever that is that's different about what you're up to, it's making you a good person. Then they're more open to hear what that is that you're up to, if that you can demonstrate you're a good person. And the opposite is true. Your conduct is bad, whatever you may have to say. Not very persuasive. Okay. So while you have something, Krishnarchan has something, and then we're done.
Romapada Swami, I just thought of this because it's connected in two ways. One year, Subal and I were visiting Durban, and one family of devotees told us this story. Usually the devotees, both in Johannesburg, I've had experience of it, and in Durban, they go out and distribute a lot of prasadam in the black African areas. And one devotee family had a burglar come to their house, and this is also very common there, burglaries are very common. And the burglar wasn't expecting that the family was at home, and so the devotees, I think they said the prayer to Lord Nrsingadev, if I remember correctly, and the burglar recognized that they were devotees and said, "Oh, you the people that help our people," and the burglar literally left right away. So I thought it was very interesting, just on that point of the, how the activities affect the whole environment.
Yeah. Good. You have something? You always have something.
Yeah, I had one question, Guru Maharaj. Just to confirm, because I remember hearing, but through the time you hear so many things is there, and I wanted to see if you can confirm this. The understanding that, I think the quote is like, and I don't remember where, that a king, a father, or a family head received 1/6 of the pious activities as well of the sinful activities.
That's my recollection. For sure, the sinful activities, and vice versa, the king's piety goes to the citizens too, some percentage.
Yeah.
And I can't recall what the exact percentage is. I'd have to research it.
So in terms of, the benefits that even in whatever level we are in devotional service to our immediate family, they're receiving some percentage of the devotional service that we do. So in some sense, they do in devotional service.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's always the greatest service that we can do.
Keep going. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.